Welcome back. Tactical Tuesday with Johnny Tiger on July 19, 2022. That was a simple little combo, but it's a lot more devastating than it looks. Simple 1-2 punch, nothing new about that, and then shuffle in, a shove to the head, punch to the throat, finishing the fight. I think most of us are no stranger to pushing and shoving. After all, the three stages of how most people escalate conflict. First, there's the yelling and raising of voice, and then the second stage, when violence is pretty unavoidable, people tend to do this silly thing of shoving or grabbing and pulling or chest bumping. All this semi-attack but not really attack thing. You can equate that to the aggressor is testing the water, seeing how much they can get away with. Because it's not until you actually shove somebody and you chest bump them and you grab them that you actually get a measure of, am I stronger than this guy? Is this guy stronger than I thought he was? How are they going to react? Are they going to cringe, run away? Are they going to beg for mercy? What am I dealing with here? So all this shoving and pushing and grabbing, grabbing the lapel, these this is a stage where if you know what you're doing, this is the time to do it. You don't want to wait until they actually punch you in the face or kick you in the groin. By then it's a little bit too late. However, isn't it interesting how once the actual fight starts, you actually never, almost never see people push anymore. When people are fighting, there's a lot of grabbing and clinching and punching, elbow, kicking, fighting, crying, but there's almost no shoving or pushing when people are fighting. I remember this one instant, actually this happened more than once, but I'll give you guys one example of when this happened. A handful of years ago, about 5 to 6 years ago, I was working with a bunch of students, and two guys were sparring. And the one guy, even though they were of relative equal size, and the uh, guy on the left was even more skilled than the guy on the right. But the guy on the right was constantly kicking his butt. And so student A, the guy on the left, came over to me and said, I don't know how to deal with this guy. Uh, Now, keep in mind, you guys always keep in mind that I can't see exactly what's going on. And no, I cannot tell exactly what's going on when they're sparring just by listening to it. I can get a gist of what's going on. I get an overall impression, but I don't. Like if someone throw a hook versus someone throws a cross, that pretty much sounds the same to me. I'm unable to tell what's going on. Okay, so student A came over and said, Sensei, I don't know how to deal with this guy. I said, what seemed to be the problem? And he said, well, he doesn't do any technique. He just rushed forward and next thing I know, I'm back in the corner and he's punching, punching, punching. He's always in my space. And even when I move, he just follows and I'm always tied up. I'm always clinched up. And I said to him, I said, have you ever thought about pushing? And he had this very awkward confused pause, and he said, "What do you mean?" I say, do that to me. So he did that. He demonstrated to me. He came at me and he went just start punching and crowding me, and I just stepped to the side, put my hand. Now when you're fighting, your arms are up like that, right? Step to the side, put my hand on his arm and shove, and then boom, boom, right? In the rib, in the rib, in the face. That's all. And after that, he had no problem with student B anymore when they were sparring. He had the skill to begin with. He just neglected one of the most basic, simple things that we human beings have learned to do even without having to be taught. Shoving and pushing to get the person to the position you want them to be. Now, in Chinese martial arts, the idea of push hand is not a new one. In fact, it is often illustrated and utilized in kung fu, such as the drunken kung fu, right? It is often used in kung fu, such as the white crane style, even though in that case it's not quite as obvious. But in white crane, you are constantly looking for a chance to get that advantage. You're pushing with your foot on the person's leg. You're pushing with your foot on their body. When they get too close, you shove them to the side and you get your foot in there again. There's a lot of pushing, right? Even in other more modern disciplines like Wing Chun, Hung Gar, etc., etc., there's a bit of brief mentioning of push hand. When you push somebody, or when you remember to push somebody in a conflict, quite often you'll achieve two things. One, you will get a little bit of a break if the person is crowding you, if the person is in your face and just punching and punching and punching. If you just shove them away, you'll get a little bit of a break to regroup. Number two, you also will find yourself that instant where you can get your own punishment in there, such as when I demonstrated, if my student or if the person in my face punching, if I can get my hand on his arm and shove, and I will open them right up for my entry, punch into the rib and head, I can at least get 4 punches in before they're stabilized because they are staggering back from being shoved. Pushing, shoving also is a great way to opening up someone's guard if the person is very, very defensive, right? If the person's arms up like this, I can start throwing punches all day long. But it's hard to say if I'm going to get past their guard. But if I take my left hand and push across to the left hand, this will open up this brief instant where my right hand can cross over right into the jaw, while my own arm is still up here, so I am perfectly covered. The only way they can hit me is if they come across with a hook, but they have to get past my arm, so that hook is not going to be all that damaging. Of course, you still have to watch out for their leg. If they know how to kick, they know how to grapple, so oh, you got to take all that into consideration. But for the most part, because most people are conditioned to not expect people to push once the fight starts. It generally speaking will take them off guard long enough for you to do your own stuff. There's two styles, two different ways to push. One is a hard push, which means there's a bit of an impact, like a palm strike. You're shoving them like you're pushing them out of the way, right? This is a good way to do it if your goal is you're going to be able to take them off balance. If your goal is to off balance them and you're confident that you know how to do this to get them to move. If you don't, then yeah, you might be going up against a brick wall and you're going to end up being punished yourself. So if you don't know what's the best way to move somebody, I suggest you watch the episode from a couple of weeks ago where we talked about the three pivotal points on the human body. What's the best way to move a human being? You do not want to push the center mass. Let me just give you that hint. Okay? You need to know where to apply that force. The second kind of push is what you saw me do in the beginning of the combo. That push is very, very soft, very slow even. Why is it that? The soft push is great for not triggering the person's fight or flee response. So it will take them totally off guard. Yeah? So let me give you guys an example. You can if you have someone to do it with you, hold your arm out, right? And have your partner do grab your arm and pull hard like this, or have them put their hand on your arm and then slowly either pull it to the side or push, and see which one you'll find harder to resist. I bet you the soft one is a lot harder to resist. Why? Because it does not trigger that chemical in your brain. Oh, it's time to fight. I need to do something. No. When the hand comes in nice and slow and flowing like this and shove the head back, by the time the brain realizes it's in danger, my fist is in the throat already. So, to recap that, if you want to take the person off balance and you have the confidence that you can do it, then a hard shove is the way to go. But if your goal is the element of surprise, where you want to sneak something very devastating in there, then you want to work on your slow motion, slow, soft push. Now, soft doesn't mean the push is weak. Once you start pushing, you want to accelerate from 0 to 100, right? There's three things to keep in mind when you're utilizing how to push somebody in a fight. Number one, you always want to direct your force up rather than just forward or just forward and down, right? If you have the upward push, you have a much higher chance of breaking their connection with the ground long enough for you to push them and stagger them, rather than you just shove them straight forward or even have a bit of a downward angle, right? When you push, always go from down to up and drive with your leg. Number two, when you push somebody, keep in mind that while you're giving yourself that opportunity by gaining distance, you're walking right into the zone where they can throw kicks. Okay, you always want to keep that in mind because if you fight or spar someone like me, for example, the moment you push me back, the first thing that come out of me without even having to think about it is a groin kick, right? The moment I feel my balance going back, my leg come up. So you have to take into consideration that things might happen, depending on how well the person is trained. Things might happen on an automatic level the moment you shove them. Okay? If someone shoved my arm, almost my immediate response is a hammer fist coming from a different direction, right? So you got to be prepared for that. When you before you decide to go and shove somebody, you need to think about how well trained this person is and uh, prepare yourself. Don't just shove and leave your guard wide open. Okay, when you're pushing, always remember to move yourself. Number three, and this is one of the most important lesson I can give you guys with regarding to pushing. Don't always think about moving the person, right? You won't be able to succeed all the time. Sometimes it's just as valuable if by pushing the person you can let yourself move back. Okay, I do this a lot, which is kind of strange because most people's idea of blind people fighting is once we get a hold of somebody, we don't let go. We just stay in there. Okay, that's not really a good idea, depending on who you're fighting. Okay, some people you don't want to stay in there, especially if you're uh, trading punches and you find yourself on the losing end of that. Right? You want to reassess the situation. So a lot of time, if I find myself jammed up with a person, and I really don't think I can win this contest, standing here this close, I'm going to push the person to gain distance. But I'm not even thinking about moving the person. If I push and the person doesn't move, that's okay. I'm going to use them to move myself. And as soon as I move myself, I come in with a push kick to the stomach or groin. I can push myself out, yeah, push myself out and come in immediately with that big long range punch to the face, right? So rather than always thinking about moving the person, be prepared to use the push to move yourself to a better, more advantageous position. Maybe to push the person so you can throw in that roundhouse kick. Maybe to push the person so you can get that elbow into the belly. Whatever. It is okay to be a little bit pushy. Thank you for checking out today's Tactical Tuesday. We'll be back again tomorrow with a Wisdom Wednesday. And now, push on and stay safe.